Daly, here.
Aye.
Joe Silva,
Here.
Catherine Hodgson,
Here.
Albert Russo,
Here.
Louisa Britton.
Here.
Moving on to public participation. You can read that. The Danbury Board of Education welcomes public participation and asks that comments be limited to 3 minutes. The public may offer objective comments of school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System. Danbury Public Schools is temporarily pausing in-person public participation in board meetings as we collectively work through social distancing techniques to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our school community. The Danbury Board of Education invites members of the public who are residents of the town to send brief comments and questions via email in advance to public.boe@danbury.k12.cd.us. Oh, you don't have a mic.
Should I use this one? Dear Board of Ed, the parent pickup policy, this is from Jean Rivet. The parent pickup policy in our schools is a good one, but only if it's followed and enforced. 8,775 children in the U.S. are abducted each year, 90% of them by parents. I am writing to let you know that Pembroke School, where my grandson attends, is not following your protocols at all and has not since the beginning of the school year. I pick up my grandson about once a week. I have never once been asked who I am or been asked for my ID. No one has ever checked to see if I'm on the list from his parents as an allowable person. Also, all I have to do is tell them who I want and they call for him. Mind you, my grandson is not the same race as me either, so he doesn't look like me at all. My daughter has emailed the principal several times, and the principal insists the man at the door will check IDs and then when verified will allow the child to go with the adult. Then the principal continues in the emails that the man at the door will always check IDs, check the list, and then remember by facial recognition that the adult is allowed to take the child. My daughter has shared the emails with me. The protocol has never once been followed. The man at the door does not know me, has never asked for nor seen my ID, and does not know how my grandson is related to me. He does not recognize me because each time he has asked who I am there for. No one has ever checked if I or anyone else, for that matter, is allowed to take him. My grandson has had at least 5 different people pick him up, and no one person has been asked for any ID or checked to see if they're on the allowed list. Maybe Pembroke School has never had an incident, but that does not ensure it will never happen. This is an easy fix and one that should be enforced. I'm asking you to see to it that the schools in our district follow the protocol for parent pickup. Asking the principal for verification is obviously not enough, as nothing in her emails happened. The Board of Ed must see to it that these protocols are enforced and adhered. I will be picking him up in the weeks to come and hope to see a safe and positive difference. Thank you for your time. Most sincerely, Jean Rick. This one's from John Smith. My name is John Smith and I'm a Danbury resident. My question to the board tonight is, my understanding is that the public is not allowed to attend these meetings in person tonight due to COVID-19 concerns, and My understanding is only those who were invited are allowed to attend tonight. I know that the issue regarding the switch to remote learning ultimately lies in the hands of the governor and State Department of Education. But can the board please explain how you can allow students and teachers to go into overcrowded school buildings that lack the necessary COVID mitigation tools and strategies, and yet not allow those same people and the public in general to attend tonight's board meeting? There is a clear element of hypocrisy here, just as there is hypocrisy at the state level when the state capitol building was closed on Thursday of last week due to positive COVID cases among their building staff. Superintendent Woolston and other superintendents in the state should have the power to switch to remote learning when they so choose. I encourage Superintendent Woolston to push Governor Lamont and the State Department of Education to allow districts the flexibility to go into remote learning and have those days count. We must push harder for this for the sake of the safety and health of students, teachers, and school staff. If there is a doubt to be had regarding this COVID safety in our schools, I would encourage any board member to go into our schools and see the lack of COVID mitigation strategies present in our schools' cafeterias when the kids eat their lunches. This is where my friend contracted COVID. Last one is from Elkie Croft. Happy New Year to the Danbury Board of Education. This email is in regards to my support of our students and staff within the Danbury Public School System, and to disclose my concern for funding risks that can negatively impact the Danbury Public School System. The current funding is to provide imperative support services for our students, and an increase of funding would ensure educational consistency as well as continue to maintain positive educational outcomes. I currently provide support services for our teens and youth, all within the DPS, listening to the concerns they have regarding mental health, social and educational issues, and their need for more support and educational staff. My concern is that we need to work on funding areas in our public school to better support our students, which will also provide support for staff. If we don't, we will see an increase of risk factors, including emotional, behavioral, educational, and social problems and challenges. I'm also asking the Board of Honor the responsibility of serving all students in our DPS and to seek out solutions that will reflect the responsibility. For example, a charter school will draw funds away from our DPS and drastically and negatively impact students and staff. Part of empowering and providing protective factors for our students and staff is to ensure that funding is maintained and increased. Please do the work you were elected to do and protect Danbury Public Schools. I appreciate the opportunity to communicate with you today and will continue to do so moving forward. Stay safe. Respectfully, Elkie Caleros Meany.
Thank you, Olga. Moving on, consent calendar. Lauren, would you make a motion, please? I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the items on the consent calendar, exhibits 22-1 through 22-5, as recommended.
Second.
Moved by Lauren, seconded by Kate. Any discussion on consent calendar? Seeing none, all those in favor, Lauren, would you do a roll call, please? Sure. Joseph Britton.
Aye.
Teresa Bazate. Teresa, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry.
Is that an aye? Rachel Chalesky. Aye. Michelle Colella. Kate Canetta.
Aye.
Gladys Cooper.
Yes. Yes.
Lauren Bailey, aye. Joseph De Silva,
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson,
Aye.
Albert Russo,
Aye.
and Louisa Britton.
Unanimous, the motion carries. Staff representatives. Erin, would you like to take the microphone? Sure.
Do a quick switch. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone. For those of you who I have not met yet, my name's Erin Bailey. I am the president of NEA Danbury, the Teachers Union. And I just
Erin,
actually
is
want
the microphone? Sorry.
Is it not?
Wrong button.
I think he was just too far away. I think it's working.
Let's try again. Hello? Yes.
It's on the back.
Thank you.
These are usually hard up. There we go. Try that one. There you go.
Let's try this again. How's that better?
That's better, thank you.
Okay, so I'm Erin Bailey, president of the Teachers Union, and basically, I haven't seen many of you in a while, but I wanted to introduce myself to our new board members and welcome you and thank you for your service. And thank Rachel. Congratulations on your appointment, and we're glad to have you at the helm. Thank you. And also to say goodbye to Joseph. Sorry to see you go, but thank you also for your service, and I know you're going on to do equally as important things, so thank you for all of that. I also wanted to take a minute to share with you what went on today in our schools. So I don't always dress all in black like Johnny Cash. Today we had what our state union was dubbed a blackout today, and the blackout served a purpose to hopefully call attention, public attention, especially to get the attention of our governor, to let him know all of the things we still need here in Danbury to keep our schools safe. The intention, although some may have seen it in another light, the intention was not to call out administration or our superintendent. In fact, just the opposite. You will note in a News Times article that just came out a few hours ago that we as a teachers union are very supportive of our administration and are thrilled with how we have been communicating and how things have been going for the past several months. And we continue to hope to work collaboratively to problem solve and address the needs of not only our teachers but our entire staff and of course our students. So the blackout today was to highlight the fact that we do not have the flexibility for remote instruction, which after last week's difficulty keeping schools open, I think probably everyone in this room could agree we need some kind of better plan for the coming weeks and coming months if we continue to face a surge in Omicron. So as we were hoping to call attention to this today, all of our teachers rallied together to kind of stand together in solidarity to show that we're still continuing to hold each other up and support each other, even through these difficult times. As you can imagine, being an educator for these past few years now has been extremely traumatic for many of our folks. And the past few weeks with so many of our teachers getting sick has put an increasingly huge strain on our teachers that we wanted to just let the public know that we're kind of continuing to endure. So I wanted to also thank you for your continued support. We were very appreciative of getting the N95 mask singular to us last week, which I'm still wearing several days later. And I spoke with Superintendent Walston earlier today, and we discussed the need to get those more masks in the hands of teachers because these are single-use masks intended to be thrown away at the end of a school day, not used continually. Most of us are double masking, as you see that I'm doing tonight as well. The strain and the emotional turbulence of our day-to-day experience as teachers is not just due to COVID, but it's due to taking on additional work responsibilities and having to fill in for the missing personnel. Our tutors and paraprofessionals have done an amazing job filling in for teachers when they are out, and that's something that we all know shouldn't happen. Our support specialists, our coaches, our PBS service people, they have all been going above and beyond. And I just wanted to make sure, and I'm sure everyone in this room understands that, but for the public record, to let the public know and acknowledge the hard work that our staff is doing to keep things running. And it's very disheartening when we hear things on social media and from others out there in the public that may be saying that, you know, we're not doing our best to keep the doors open for our schools. That is not the case. And I think we've all been doing some serious creative problem solving. So I just wanted to put that out there publicly. And once again, thank the board for all of your hard work, and hopefully we'll continue in this next year to have better circumstances to work together on. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Moving on to our student representatives. Please introduce yourselves before we begin.
Hi. Hi, I'm Tina Nago, and I'm the VOG Vice President.
Hi, my name is Gregory Parker, and I'm the Board of Governors President.
Hi, I'm Nicole, and I'm the representative of ACE.
Thank you for being here this evening.
So to start off, the Voice for Change projects are coming to an end after the submission date was pushed back a week to January 17th. Students in both AP, Government and Politics, and Peer Leadership are drafting proposals to submit in order to have a chance to win $20,000. These projects include parking lot touch-ups, revamping the bathrooms, and also improving signage within the school. Seniors are involved in the FAFSA Challenge organized by the state. This friendly competition encourages students to apply for the FAFSA and earn a chance of winning a new MacBook.
Prior to winter break, Danbury High School decided to have a couple of fun events throughout the school building, including a hot chocolate handout during lunch, an ugly sweater day, and a candy cane distribution. And all 3 days were definitely a success. Students loved this fun way of wrapping up their learning before leaving for break. The Board of Governors are putting out application for an executive council in order to better hear the voices of the student body. This application is open to primarily upperclassmen, but we definitely want to see some sophomores and freshmen in order to, again, hear the voices of each different grade. These students will also be helping with school-wide events. Peer Leadership is beginning the process of recruiting new applicants from the class of 2023. These students not only must be leaders, but also have exceptional collaboration, communication, and responsibility skills in order to, again, help organize school-wide events.
Good evening, Board of Ed members, cabinet, and community members. Thank you for allowing me to represent and speak on behalf of the Alternative Center for Excellence. The week before winter break, ACE students and staff participated in the ACE Cares for Everyone greeting card project. The project was coordinated by English teacher Joanne Toll and resulted in 104 cards being created and delivered to the 5-Star Center at the Danbury Hospital for patients. This week, ACE students will also be submitting essays about Martin Luther King Jr. It is a contest to recognize and celebrate contributions of Dr. King to our society. And ACE is currently running visitations for DHS students interested in joining our community at ACE for the second semester. DHS students shadow ACE students for a school day before making the decision to set up an entrance meeting with guidance teachers at ACE in order to begin the relationship building process. like to recognize Donovan Matute, who was awarded the Ace of Heart Award for demonstrating care for others in the month of December. Ace would also like to recognize Jalen Batista as the recipient of the Ace of Spades Award for academic hard work and achievement in the month of December. Lastly, Ace would like to recognize Haley Sanchez and Paige Ferrantino as our December Students of the Month and the consistent demonstration of our 5 behavioral expectations. Award winners will be recognized at our next large guidance and will be represented with certificates and Dunkin' Donuts gift cards. Thank you for allowing us to share what's going on with our Ace family down on 26th Locust Ave. Stay safe and remain Ace strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any board members have any questions or anything they'd like to say to our student representatives? No? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome to stay, but we understand if you prefer to leave. So feel free.
Thank you for representing the school tonight. Good to see you.
Moving along to action items. Lauren, would you do action item A, please?
I make a motion that the Board of Education accept the letter of resignation dated January 3rd, 2022 from board member Joseph Britton in accordance with Exhibit 22-6.
There's a motion on the floor, seconded by Joseph De Silva. Any discussion? All those in favor? Actually, this is a good time. I wasn't sure when to give this to you. Or maybe would you like to present it to me?
Sure, my pleasure. So, first let me bring this to you and I'll say a couple words after. Thank you for your research.
Thank you.
So one, I would just want to say how happy, proud we are as a cabinet number one, and I think collectively as a board to know that one of our most recent graduates of Danbury High School is serving in this very important civic capacity. You've been an amazing partner and board member these last couple of years, and to know that we all know your journey going to school right now. We're certainly very excited for you in whatever your professional journeys may take you, but also really happy to see you on the other side on the council seat, and know and hope that you will continue to support Danbury Public Schools and the children of Danbury. And selfishly, I must say, with two of my own kids, how proud you must be. He's been an amazing partner for us, and to know as former teachers in this district, administrators in this district, board members who rally and advocate for kids, to know this is what we're producing. I'm just really happy to see it happening. So congratulations, Joe. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to have your mom, of course.
I find that to say that word.
Sorry, I had to. So there's a motion on the floor, it was seconded. Lauren, would you do the roll call, please?
Joseph Britton,
Yes.
Teresa Bazade, Rachel Cholesky,
Aye.
Michelle Colello,
Aye.
Kate Canetta,
Aye.
Gladys Cooper,
Yes.
Lauren Daly, aye. Joseph Silva,
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson,
Aye.
Albert Russo,
Aye.
Louisa Britton.
Unanimous, motion carries. Moving along to action item B. Lauren, would you do that, please?
I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the 21-2022 superintendent's goals in accordance with 22-07.
Second.
Moved by Lauren, seconded by, did I Joseph Brennan has been out the door, so give it to him. Are there any discussion, comments, questions?
There's some information, some data that we were going to be provided with that.
Can you use the mic? Sorry, we can't hear you.
I'm
And
sorry.
keep your mouth down.
There's some data and some information. Would that be the time now for me to request that? Some figures that you were going to present and some material specific?
Right, are you referring to, can you just tell me what you're referring to,
It
Michelle?
was regarding the diversity rate between the teacher and the students and some other
Sure.
kind of benchmarks for the goals that are set here that just needed a little bit more foundation.
So not a problem. So we can prepare that for our next board meeting as part of the superintendent update. And John Spang and Dr. Mead are on tonight as part of the budget presentations. Kim Thompson will be here for the next meeting, and she can present out on the HR update that's usually presented in the fall. So we can do that at the next meeting for sure.
Is there any other discussion? Anything from our remote attendees?
Could I ask a question this time?
Please, Gladys, go ahead.
May I ask a question?
Yes. No.
My question concerning goals are, if we adopt the goals tonight, will there be additional edits to those goals?
The question is, will there be additional edits to the goals if we adopt them tonight?
Once
Yes.
we accept the goals,
I'm not planning to make edits unless there's a request to make edits.
No, the goals are as they're presented, Gladys.
I didn't hear the response from the superintendent.
Ms. Cooper, unless there's a request made by the board, I do not have plans to make any edits to the goals.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. Lauren, would you do the roll call?
Joseph Britton,
Aye.
Teresa Bazade,
Yes.
Rachel Cholesky,
Aye.
Michelle Colello,
Nay.
Kate Canetta,
Aye.
Gladys Cooper,
Yes.
Lauren Bailey, aye. Joseph De Silva,
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson,
Yes.
Albert Russo,
Aye.
Louisa Britton.
Okay, that's 10 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Moving on to, we don't have anything in for presentation, correct?
No.
Okay, so it is now you have the floor for superintendent's report.
I will start with our superintendent goals update. There are two areas I would like to highlight. This is budget season, 22-23 school year. And so the season starts off with certainly just kind of providing an overview for the board and the community of what to expect. Of course, with our new chief finance officer, so he's going to walk the board and the community what to expect over the next several months. That process also involves community forums and community input. So Dr. Mead is also going to speak to what those forums, how that's going to take place. A little different from last year. In previous years, the board might recall, the community might recall we had community forums for ESSER grant input. Courtney and I, as part of our community input, also had sought feedback from the community regarding the operational budget as well. We felt like with that success, the success Dan and I had during these meetings, we felt like this would be a good strategy to include annually as part of our budget process. So, John, if you can start us off, and Olga, if you can start us off with the first page. Opening page.
Sure.
So it's a brief presentation, an overview of the process, and John will walk us through from there. And you may need to get it that microphone if it doesn't work. I'm assuming this will.
Great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So as the superintendent mentioned, it's going to be both Dan and I. And one of the parts I'm going to talk to you about is the budget calendar we put together. And I think when I'm in the middle of that, we get to the community forums, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mead, and then it'll come back to me to wrap up towards the end. Hopefully that'll work. So we have revamped the budget process from last year, and one of the reasons is we have a brand new software program, Infinite Visions. Some of you are familiar with that name. And that software is state of the art. It allows us to do a lot more things, and most of that is done online. So there'll be less paper and a lot more of the material electronically. But the key to the key part of the change is on your first page here. You can follow along. We're going to build the budget in 5 component parts. 5 parts of those. They're all things you're familiar with, but we're putting them into different buckets just to help identify them and manage them and control them a little better. And each of the parts has cost centers in it. And with those cost centers, we'll have more accountability, I think, than we've had before. Not that we didn't have any, but it's more drilled down. For example, each of the schools will be a cost center headed by the principal. Some of the programs that we have, IT, for example, sites and facilities, those will be cost centers. They always have been, but they'll have a different responsibility this year. The first of the 5 components we'll call salaries and wages. And that's a part of the budget that will be built here in the central office by my office along with HR. And what we'll be doing is taking all of the employees that we had on our last payroll, and in our software, we'll, most of those employees are in bargaining units and unions. They have a step function salary schedule, and we'll be able to move everybody up a step onto. Can you hear me okay? Or?
No, they're having problems. Can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah.
Maybe
Is that better?
closer?
I got a text.
Sit down.
There.
That sounds like something. Hello?
Maybe try,
How's that?
maybe the other microphone?
Okay. Does that work? Hello?
Sit on.
Tap it, John's channels.
Okay.
Much better.
So you hold it down to talk. Okay. Thank you. So I mentioned salaries and wages. I won't go through that again, but we're moving everybody up a step through our software. So we'll have a person-by-person exact budget estimate once we do that, but that's done centrally. The biggest change for us is the second part, and I call that, we call that base allocations. And what that means is our school principals will be more responsible now for consumable materials, classroom items, what our staff and our teachers use every day. This will be a little bit of a shift away from the way we've done things. We've done more of those decisions centrally, and there still will be many made that way, but gradually some of that will be moved to the schools. And each school will have a budget. It's based on their enrollment, their projected enrollment. We've taken the last demographic enrollment that we have, I think it was April of 2021, and looked at the number of students that are expected in each school in September. And schools get money based on that. I'll use South Street as an example. We're expecting 341 students.
Teresa, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
But I can't hear them. Okay, I know she muted the Zoom. And I'm telling Lauren, but Lauren's saying no, she didn't.
No, I didn't.
And I don't get a picture.
Oh, I got the picture.
I'm
You don't see where it says budget development process, Danbury Public Schools?
I hit that and then it went away. It was like step 2, step 3.
Yes.
I just still like the same front page, just the blue page.
Oh, they can hear us.
Okay, they can hear us. I'm muting.
Good? Okay, so we're expecting 341 students at South Street in September. And for every student, the principal will get $65, or a total of $33,000 to budget for. And those will be for things if say a teacher wants to do something in the classroom, maybe enhance the curriculum. For example, I don't know, maybe they want to buy a chair for students to sit in while they read to the rest of the class, or so all the things you see in the classrooms. Maybe there's posters on the wall of the presidents, or maybe the principal wants to have a program to recognize a student of the month and give a certificate, or have an assembly, something like that. But things that are decisions that are day-to-day in the schools, they'll use this base allocation to help buy that. And again, it's not to change the curriculum, but it's to allow teachers to do more, is what's behind it. The schools have had budgets, but they've been kind of shared. The management of those has been shared. And now more of it is going to come right from the classrooms and the principals who are making the day-to-day decisions. This will allow our central office, our central administrators, to concentrate more on improvements and direction and things like this. Each elementary school will get the same amount per pupil. They'll get $65, but a bigger school will end up with more money than a smaller one. The middle schools will get $75 per student because they have more programs, they have more electives, there's more things that go on and cost money in middle school. And that same goes for the high school. They'll get $85 per student to use for these kind of things. The programs, I'll call them, for example, IT or sites and facilities, they too will have base allocations or budgets, and they'll be planning those as well for some of those central administration programs. So that's the second component. The third component, I'm going to call that improvements. And you'll see on your chart there, it's labeled initiatives, but that third component is really for new directions that we might decide to take, depending on our budget deliberations. But that component is designed to improve instruction over what we have now. Examples, not that we've had any discussions yet, but let's say we wanted to bring in a new mathematics curriculum, middle school curriculum or something like that. That would be budgeted centrally as an initiative and as an improvement. The same, for example, the Career Academy that's coming up. When we begin to budget for some of the things there, that would be an improvement. That would be budgeted centrally because the base allocations that the principals have just aren't enough money for things like that. Same with our strategic plan. If there are things in there that are different, this is where we place the budget in this component, or even the superintendent's goals. Some of those things might require some resources, so they go in this third group, I call them improvements. The fourth component I call fixed costs. And fixed costs are things that you really can't do. It's hard to change in the short run. They would be hard for us to change for July. An example might be the contract with the bus company. We just signed a 5-year contract last year. Next year is year 2. Sure, we could change the number of buses, but the contract is in place. Another example might be some of our special ed out-of-district tuitions. Those are driven by IEPs. A number of those students are likely to be in their same schools next year, so that's kind of stuff. Health insurance is another one. We have our program. Sure, we could change it, but it would be hard to do by July. So those are the fixed costs. Maybe some of the utilities might be found in there too. And then the fifth component, I'm going to call those special needs. Those are primarily one-time purchases that a school needs to make from time to time, but that they don't have enough money. Take the example I used in South Street. They have $30,000. If they needed to replace their copy machine, or let's say in the art room, the kiln needed to be replaced, or in a school art room, it's really not fair to say you have to do those big things out of your per pupil. That would leave you at a disadvantage vis-a-vis the other schools. So there might be a few things there that we just say, it's a one-time deal, and that we're going to put money in so as to not disrupt the equity of the per pupil. So those are the 5 component parts.
John, I just wanted to add one thing about the 5 budget building components. There's one area specifically I'd like to highlight, and that's the base allocations per school. Captain and I, we've had quite an opportunity to talk about this strategy, and we're seeing, number one, we feel strongly that our principals, our teachers, leadership teams at the respective schools, this provides some autonomy for them to make these kind of decisions that John is talking about. Perhaps in some cases, the autonomy that they did not have before. But for us, in terms of building a budget, it's an opportunity for us to have some built-in accountability with budget decisions as well. At Danbury, like most districts, kind of relied on, here's an emergency, I need something purchased, someone makes the decision, and unfortunately, you get a whole lot of emergency
an efficient budget process. And I think this will do this because we've taken the budget, we've put it into component parts, easy to identify. There's no other place, where money is parked for something we don't really know about. So I think it's efficient in that everything is in a component. The goal also is to establish a coherent budget. And I think by having components, I think that's coherent. You just heard how I described them. That can be, I think it's pretty clear. We'll have to, they're new, so it'll take a while to become familiar with them, but it does provide coherence. But goal 3 also says that we'll establish an equitable distribution of resources. Equitable distribution of resources. And the per pupil allocation does that. Every elementary school gets $65 per pupil. Every middle school 75, a high school 85. I think that's equitable. Nobody gets more unless they have more students. So it does that. And then the next slide is, we call it the budget timeline. If you could switch to that for a second. There's what you're looking at is where we are right now with the budget calendar. But as Mr. Walston mentioned, we're in the budget season, so we've done a few things already. In late December, we sent instructions out to the principals and program leaders with their allocation and with some instructions that said, here's what you're allowed to spend it on. For example, they cannot hire staff with that money. They cannot do building projects or things like that. It's for what goes on in our classrooms and offices. But they got that in late December, and Friday we're going to have workshops with the principals, either in person or on Zoom, where we're going to show them how to use the software to enter their requests. So they'll enter what they want, how much they like, and some description of how they use it and what it's for. And again, we'll be able to see that quite easily as soon as it's entered. But we've also started projecting the salary and wages, the first component part. You don't see that on the calendar here because we've already started it. It's slow, but it's going on. And then what we're going to begin to do next week is the component of fixed costs. We'll be looking very carefully at health insurance. We're going to hear from our consultant what they recommend. We budget for health insurance and look at some other things, the bus contract, the things I mentioned. The budgets from the principals and program leaders are due back January 19th. But let me turn to Dr. Mead now for a second. I skipped a day, but you're before and after the 19th, so.
Thank you. That works. Okay, so welcome to our new board members. Shall I just shout? Welcome to our new board members, much better, thank you. And so one of my goals is around community engagement and to really improve the two-way communication that we have with our families. And back in the spring when we were looking at getting feedback from the families around the ESSERs, we felt we were very successful, A, by the number that came to the forums that we had, the input that we received afterwards, and then how we used all that input to process what we were going to use the ESSER money for. And so building on that strength that we had already, we felt that it was really important to capture families' thoughts and feedback of what they wanted the budget spent on. It is taxpayer dollar, and so having their input is really important to this process. So we have 2 dates coming up next Tuesday night, the 18th at 7 o'clock, and then the next week on Thursday, the 27th, also at 7 o'clock. The invitation went out in an email, robocall reminding families to look at their email messages last night, and we have over 30 families signed up already as of when I checked about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So families are interested in the budget. We know we'll get good feedback. We will, on that night, have English and Spanish going on, so we can capture all of our families' interests in the budget and their thoughts and their feedback. So I'll kick it back to John, and that's where we are with that one. Thank you.
Right, and so there'll be 2 of those, the 18th and the 27th. But if you look back at the calendar, that allows us, the principals and program leaders get their requests back on January 19th. But with the forums, then we'll have time to consider what the community wants and build that in or change what we already have. And if you look at the calendar, our goal, our target is to have that already by February 4th and submitted to you, we hope February 9th, complete with, as I said, the principals, the community's input and things like that. So, and then your work will begin, or through your committee, we'll go to the next step. So that's what's planned. It's going to be a very busy January. I'm pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from board members for John or Ann?
Madam Chair,
Sure, Al?
question, in my calendar, I have a finance committee meeting for 6 p.m. Is this the same as this community forum meeting, or is that a separate event?
I'll have to look at that. That may be an old recurring meeting, possibly? It's in
Perhaps.
it's in Google?
Yes.
The Google Calendar? I'll look at that. I'll ask Kara about that.
Okay.
For when was that?
The 18th
At 6?
at 6.
That might be, I'll ask Kara about that. That might be
Okay.
an old
And the time of our community forum again is what time?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
My question about the community forum, so it's great to invite families to get their feedback, but what about the greater community to get also their to make them aware of our budget and have kind of a place for them to learn and understand and get, maybe support.
Good question. Thank you, Rachel. We are submitting it to the newspaper. That will go out. We'll send it out through our Facebook page, and it'll go out tomorrow in a mass emailing to all of our community partners as well.
Great, thank you.
This is remote, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions before we move on?
So the next item on the agenda is the board might recall, some of our new board members, they may not be aware, during the spring of 2021, Dr. Sal, former superintendent, had presented as part of the budget a new position called Chief Operations Officer. So we had budgeted for Chief Operations Officer for the 21-22 school year. That position, as a result of an organizational study and then recent reorganization, turned into Chief of Strategy and Operations. There are several departments that will report to this position. Dr. Meaden just presented Family Community Engagement, Community Partnerships, our IT department, Facilities department, also Central Registration, which is always busy. So those departments, to begin with, will report to this position. In addition, addition, it was important for us to have someone with a background in communications, because this is also going to be a heavy lift for this department as well. So communications will also sit in this department, and will be a cabinet member as well. So we had, prior to the Christmas break, to the holiday break, we had interviews held with 2 different panels. Both panels recommended the gentleman I'm going to introduce to you this evening. Dr. Seeley had an opportunity, we had an opportunity to interview him with the cabinet. Overwhelmingly, he was our choice. Felt like he would be a good fit and provide the leadership that we need at this time. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Seeley to the board and to the community, ask him to say a couple of words before he leaves. We have him in the corner, waiting his turn. Dr. Seeley, please come on up and welcome him to the community. I hope one of those microphones work for you. If they do not, given that they're in technology, it will be your fault when we start.
Understood. Thank you all. This is really exciting. Getting to see all the faces of all the names I've been hearing about, reading about, and I'm thrilled to be here and to get started with everybody next week. As Superintendent Walston said, my background is in K-12, but then also in higher education. I actually started my career as a high school English teacher in California. I was at a comprehensive high school, about 1,800 kids. And then I moved into administration, where I was assistant principal of curriculum instruction. Did instructional technology, facilities, making sure the football fields got mowed and painted and all that kind of good stuff too, chaperoning games and staying there until the last kid left at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning. After I did that for a little while, I went up and I did some state policy work too, so I actually got to see some of the inside of the State House and some of how they say the sausage is made, and getting a better understanding of how grants are written and how they come into formulation and sort of what they're thinking when that happens. And most recently I was at City University of New York, where I ran a lot of K-12 partnerships for the college in Central Brooklyn. We did early college partnerships, wrote a lot of grants, did some fundraising with private entities as well, and then did some general management stuff as well. I was also in institutional effectiveness, so we did everything from program management to making sure our accreditation was up to speed when the accreditors came through. I was very excited when I learned about this role with Superintendent Walston. My wife and I have been actually looking to come to this area and get for quite a while, and it seemed really fortuitous when I learned about the role, and it just seems I'm very excited to be here and to start working with everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Seeley.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you and welcome.
Thanks.
So next Spain, Dr. Casimiro, Kelly Trucius, Thompson, Ed Miranda. The team worked tirelessly to get us open, but then there was another just before we reopened on the 3rd, as everyone in this room is aware, the governor announced, State Department of Education announced that the deliveries would be made to all the school districts with plans for those deliveries to land in the districts on Sunday. So I think there was an expectation across the state, certainly here in Danbury, that our teachers, our staff would be equipped with these masks, with these tests on Monday morning. We did not have them available on Monday morning, but we had them on, we were ready on Wednesday. And this is because they were delivered on Tuesday, which is fine, they were delivered on Tuesday. And John and we all communicated with our director of facilities. He's not here this evening, but I just want to thank Richard Albert and the custodial staff. They went, they picked up all the materials on Tuesday. They were in buildings on Tuesday night and distributed around the school district by Wednesday morning and available to be made available for students who needed them and staff who needed them or who met the criteria to receive them. Of course, we ended up not having school, and that was unfortunate. I know our roads and a lot of our staff were on the road. Our kids were already delayed. I was a little delayed in calling the delay for staff, and so some of our high school staff were actually on the road in conditions that, quite frankly, that were unsafe for them. And not knowing the conditions would be poorly not only on the local roads, but we also run later on the major roads as well. Thank goodness, I understand this, everyone got home safely. We did have a teacher, we did have an accident, and so I just hope everyone is safe, and just going to be mindful of all the people who came out and tried to open up our schools. I think it's just a credit to our staff, a credit to everyone. Last but not least, phase 1 of the shipment of tests available for students and staff, we received last Tuesday. And phase 1, because there is another phase 2. And we were informed earlier today that phase 2 will be available for school districts as early as this Friday. So we are expecting, once we get something official, we will be able to pick up this additional shipment. I'm assuming they will be at the same pickup location that it was before, but we have yet to receive those details. And then with that, that means we will have additional tests available for staff and students, likely as soon as next week. So again, we have some procedures for students and staff. Kelly and Kara actually going to walk us through it. And I think that is it for me. However, just before Friday, before the storm, because we anticipated a storm, we anticipated the storm, like everyone. So we wanted to make sure, we wanted to do everything we could to keep our staff safe and our school community safe. We did not have the capacity to distribute the tests to our students, so we had to save that for Monday, but we did have the capacity to set up a test distribution day the day before the storm on Thursday. And so John and our school safety advocates came out to support. John, if you could just walk the board and the community through what happened on Thursday, and then Dr. Casimiro, I'm going to ask you to talk about the planning for students after John. Yes.
I just have a question.
Sure.
What are the attendance numbers like this week with staff?
Yes, thank you. So we were close, all district staff, we were averaging 300 staff members out last week. This week, I believe Monday was like 130, 140 district staff across the board, which is normal numbers for us. And so, in fact, I think Monday night, Tuesday morning was the first time we didn't have to wake up at 5 o'clock and start the group text, making sure we can open up the bill, because we didn't do that Sunday. So,
right.
Very happy. Thanks for that question.
Sure. Thank you. So what we're talking about is the test kit distribution, and if you recall, we knew we might be closed Thursday and Friday, and this was after the ice storm Wednesday. And as Superintendent explained, we didn't want to be in a position where we were holding test kits when staff members needed them. We wanted those test kits used so we could open school. And really the heroes are Kelly and Kara on that. The day before, Wednesday, they worked tirelessly to put an email out to all staff with an attachment with a link that if you wanted a test kit the next day, there was a few things you had to do online. You indicate who you were, where you were, but the reason you were requesting it, and because we didn't have enough for everybody, we wanted people who either had tested positive or had been in close contact, but there was a criteria you had to set up. And what they did was they asked staff to fill out the forms by 8 o'clock that night. And people did. We alerted them first that the email would be coming, look for it. People did, they filled out the form, but then was really the heavy lifting. They had to sort that information, clear it, make sure everyone that was requesting it was entitled to one, and then get that information back to me so that Thursday morning, and they were given appointment blocks. I think the first one was from 11:30 to 12, and they loaded up people in that. We were at the high school, in front of the high school. Another appointment 12 to 12:30 or 12:30 to 1. And we set up two lanes as you came into the high school. Came down the hill on one of the two sides with an advocate directing people, you go left, you go right, so the lines weren't long. And as people got down to the hill by the front door, there was a safety advocate at the table with the list that they had prepared. Just from the information that night, they turned it around so quickly, asked the people who they were, checked off their name, asked for an ID, and then about 75 yards up the driveway, we had another table set up with more advocates, and that's where the kids were. We didn't want people close or traffic jams, and what most people did was they were told, open your trunk, and they did, and then the advocate came around and put the test kit in the trunk along with instructions what to do if they tested positive. And away they went, and that went on for 3 or 4 hours. It was pretty controlled. The traffic really didn't back up. We might have had 3 or 4 cars waiting at one time, but then it was very spread out. It was all very safe. And I think we handed out 130 some odd kits that day to people very pleased to get them. So that worked. And as mentioned, the principals have their allocation of kits in their schools with some instructions that I think Carol will describe now.
Thanks, John. You did a very thorough job of explaining the process. So, the process for the distribution actually went fairly well and quickly, and it was organized, and your team did an amazing job also in getting those out. That happened on January 6th. The criteria that we used with the staff, again, this was guidance that was issued by the state when the test kits were distributed to us, and that was that you did not have COVID in the last 90 days, you were symptomatic, and that you were in direct contact. And so in the initial first wave, when we sent the survey out to staff who were requesting, we had about 178 staff members fill out the form, and from that about 146 were eligible. And about 31 were eligible with reasons like, well, I just would feel better if I had one kind of thing. And at this point in time, with not having one for everyone, those were kind of classified as ineligible or if they had COVID within the last 90 days. And so after that distribution occurred, we did receive a lot of emails over the course of the weekend. How can I still get a test kit anywhere now? And so at that point, the responsibility picked up at the building level. And so if a staff member still using the same criteria, and the students as well, didn't have COVID in the last 90 days, was presenting with symptoms, or was a confirmed direct contact, then they could request it from an administrator.
And if it was a student on the student side, that would go through the nurse, and the nurse would make those determinations as well. And so just taking a quick peek on our master sheet, it appears that we've handed out approximately about 108 or 109 student test kits so far since we started that on Monday. I'm sure that will grow, or as people update the forms, it's kind of a fluid process at this point. And then several more staff members as well. So the good news is that we would be able to provide test kits for everybody who qualified and who needed one, and in the hopes that we'll have another shipment that will come in and be able to get these out a little bit more freely to everybody. But at the current time, we're able to provide everybody who needed a test kit with one, and we feel pretty good about that, as well as masks. Did a great job getting those out in a very short period of time.
And with the masks, just yesterday, we ordered another, I think, 8,000 masks and 95 masks using our federal government relief money, the ESSER 3. There was some money left to use. Those will be coming in the next day or so. They were in stock. Westport company had them, a company we bought masks from before, so more are on the way.
Thank you, Joe. And last but not least for updates, it's the update on quarantine guidelines and for students and staff, and Kelly's going to walk us through that.
Sure, thank you. And just before I go over that, I just want to add that the distribution of the kits really helped with this new process in place. Kathy O'Dowd, as many of you are aware, worked tirelessly all weekend as people were self-testing our employees at home to identify who could and who couldn't come into work. And I do believe that that had something to do with the significant increase in attendance for this week. So the CDC over the holiday break released updated guidance due to the new variant. And with that guidance, it was then reviewed by the State Department of Public Health as well as the State Department of Education. And so right before reopening and the meetings Superintendent Alston was talking about, the state had indicated to us that districts could feel free to adopt the new guidance by the CDC. And so the guidance is consistent in the first portion I'll go over, that if you're symptomatic, so any of the cold-like symptoms that are commonly associated with COVID-19, you are to stay home, you are to isolate, and you are to test before you return to work or until you're not presenting with symptoms. And the testing, though, did change slightly. As you guys are aware, that getting a PCR test was virtually impossible for many. And so you could do a PCR test, an antigen test, or a self-test kit. So that self-test kit, which we were not previously accepting, we're now allowed to accept for either staff or students. In addition, if you are testing positive for COVID-19, another one of the changes in the guidance was that you have to do a 5-day quarantine, so that was reduced from the previous 10 days. I do want to clarify, though, the 5-day quarantine is if on day 6 you are no longer presenting with a fever and your symptoms, cold, stuffiness, runny nose, have significantly dissipated, then you're able to return to work on day 6, or a student is able to return to school on day 6. If your symptoms persist, you need to remain out up until the 10th day or through the 10th day or until when you're feeling better. It is also expected that between days 6 and 10, if you are back, that you are wearing a mask around all others consistently, which is common with our practice in schools anyways, but just highlighting, to a staff member that in the break room or something like that, you need to make sure you're masked up the entire time. We are still quarantining unvaccinated individuals and recommending that they test on day 5 after their last exposure. And then the last change in the guidance is regarding individual contact tracing. And this was all given out in a letter to our families and school community on January 3rd. And what that is we are no longer required to do individual contact tracing across the district. And so what we were doing previously is if you were in a 6-foot radius of a positive individual, you were given a contact notification as a parent or as a staff member. And so now what we're required to do is after a positive identification is in place, assuming all mitigation strategies are in place as well, so wearing masks, distancing as much as possible, that we do group notifications to that class.
So if you're an elementary student and you're in a kindergarten class with a child that tests positive, we're going to notify the kindergarten classroom that there was a student within that class or there was an individual within that class, because it could be an adult, that tested positive. We do not any longer do the 6-foot radius, we're just notifying the location. At the secondary level, that is done by course. When it's teams, it's done by team or by club. So any contact in a school, we're doing a general notification to the school community that there was an exposure. Yes.
How are we dealing with exposures at the high school at lunch? I mean, I happen to know a student who received a call right before the holiday. The person who sits next to him, thank God we have assigned seating at lunch, was positive. Lo and behold, the next day, he woke up, didn't feel well. 7 days later, got the COVID results from seeing before because it was nutty. Was positive, in fact positive.
We are trying it to the best of our ability within all locations in the school to do group notifications, like at the lunch table.
How do you notify the lunch?
So if, we have assigned seating in the lunch, so we do try to notify, the individuals in the location. I will tell you, in those areas, it's not a perfect science. The classrooms are much more easier to do, but we try to the best of our ability to keep people notified. At the lower levels, it's much easier as the classrooms eat together. At the secondary level, it can be challenging.
Hopefully at the secondary level, you're calling your friends and telling them.
I would hope. Yes.
Just a quick question, Kelly. So when you were talking about the change in the quarantine period and the need for folks to wear a mask in that 5-day period following when they return, how are we handling like lunch or snacks and things like that?
So they are still able to eat lunch and snacks, but we are asking that they eat and then return with the mask on. So just a heightened awareness to all that, you need to eat, you can take a drink, and then put the mask back on. The research is showing, and from, the information that's coming from Kathy, directly getting it from the state, is that individual after that 6th day and beyond is not as likely to pass the virus on to others. But we know that this variant is spreading much more quickly. So just in common good practice for all kids, just a heightened sense of eat and then re-mask. But we do have, there's not an individual place we can put every kid that's returning from quarantine. And then the only other exception would be, as you guys are aware, we do have some individuals in classrooms, many of which fall within my department, that we have some students that we know have more difficulty consistently wearing masks. So in those locations, for example, some of our preschool classrooms, some of our self-contained classrooms and so forth, if we are aware that those individuals are not consistently wearing a mask, then we are doing the individual contact tracing in those environments, just because those mitigation strategies are not consistently in place. And so depending on the scenario, you may hear that there's an individual contact tracing and a notification if we have students that are not mask compliant. I'm happy to report that is a very minimal number of classes or individual students, so we look at it on a case-by-case basis and consult with Kathy and the school nurses on this. If there's any other questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Chairperson Chelsea.
I have a general question. I'm not sure whether it's for Kara, Kelly, or Kevin. Just in general, in terms of subs. I mean, nowhere ever was any district ever going to have enough subs to cover last week's train wreck. Obviously, this is a problem nationwide. Subs are a problem nationwide. Has going to Kelly or bringing Kelly services in, has that increased the number of subs we have?
Not yet, Chuck.
So they haven't impacted our...
Not yet. I would love to tell you differently.
They can't create it by magic.
Right. The shortages are impacting us across all departments. Unfortunately, with Kelly, they have been aggressive in their recruitment, but it hasn't yielded the results that we need right now. But we're hoping that's going to change soon.
Thanks.
Any other questions from board members? Okay.
I just wanted to, in response to that, mention that I saw an executive order from the governor today, I think, where they're allowing the retired teachers to come back on a sub level.
So, I don't know if we're aware of that. And,
I can see it, yes.
So that's just brand new, right? So are we going to take advantage of that? I know
We will invite them.
that was a big discussion actually at the Anywhere, yeah, yes,
Find a body, throw it
yeah,
all.
right. Any other questions before we move on? Seeing none?
Yes.
You're all set, okay. Board chairperson's report, I have quite a few things, I'm sorry. It's just we haven't met in forever and a lot of things happened and transpired since the last time we met. Just to touch upon committees, briefly, the drafts are attached. I spoke to most of you individually, but if there's any feedback, I'm open to that. I'm also open to placing members on a waiting list for a specific spot that, if there is one that opens, I can place you on a waiting spot, on a waiting list. But after tonight, it's pretty much set and ready to roll. Yes, Kate?
I did send a quick email over to Jeff Kitching, who's the director for Ed Advance, because I don't know if they make multiple seats available.
Oh, so there might be just one.
So there might just only be one spot, but I did send him an email that I'll let you know what I find out.
Okay, great, thank you. If you could let us know, and then we can duke it out or something. Sure. That's great. Thank you. Were you the Ed Advance previously? Yes. Yeah. Were there many meetings?
There are usually one a month,
Okay.
but I will say I accepted additional responsibilities while sitting as a board member, so whoever winds up in that spot, I would hope to continue those responsibilities.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Negotiations, Kim had informed me that we will be doing 3 contracts this upcoming summer. So I'm looking for 2 members per group. We have 3 of them. The NEA Danbury teachers, Danbury para-educators, and custodians. So if you are interested, please just shoot me an email and let me know. So I'll need 6 board members to cover those 3 this summer. Committees that are not on a regular schedule, so we have 3, hopefully policy continues on a regular schedule, finance, and facilities, which I'll talk about in a minute. Just please be aware that any committees that are kind of like ad hoc schedule, just touch base with Kara as soon as possible so that she could possibly set up the live stream. The scheduling is getting a bit difficult with scheduling committee meetings that are on a regular basis. So that is that. And I just want to mention, the committee meetings. I know I mentioned this at the board orientation, but attendance at the committee meetings, even if you're not a committee member, is very beneficial. It's just so you know when an action has to be taken before the full board from a committee. It gives you a little bit more background to what's going on. What I didn't mention at our orientation was just attendance in general at regular meetings is quite critical. We should be committed to attend all regularly scheduled meetings. We of course have members that really wanted to be here tonight, so we're trying out this hybrid format, working through it. Hopefully, it's very temporary. It's important to be in person. It lends to a better work environment and conversation, cohesiveness of the board. So bear with me as we work through this, and I have to say a huge thanks to Kara, Olga, and our IT folks. They did have some advance notice to try and work this out for us, and I appreciate all that they did to make this work. I mentioned the CAVE legislative breakfast that happened when was that? Yesterday. I attended with Michelle and Mr. Walston. It was a good turnout of superintendents and board members. The conversation was mostly around special education costs and the cap on the excess cost grant. That's been a topic for years now for the CAVE group. And not only hiring diverse staff, but just challenges around staffing in general. We're all feeling it, as mentioned previously. The citywide PTO met on Monday, the day before that. Kevin, Ann, Kate, and I attended. I will send the list of the PTO liaisons to them, so that they know who their board member PTO liaisons are. I think what I'm gonna do is, send them your email addresses, so they can contact you, but also try and capture their email addresses, so you have a way to connect and, hopefully attend some PTO meetings and then let us know what's happening, at the PTOs. Nick Caruso is scheduled to come back. This is very far in advance, but we do have him on the calendar for March 30th to come back. We tried to have a roles and responsibilities workshop last year, and felt that with new board members coming onto the board, it was better to wait for them. It's hard to schedule him, so March 30th is what we're kind of stuck with. And then I want to say thank you to our new members who have really stepped up to participate and observe expulsion hearings, and everyone in general. Just a thank you for, helping us with that. And that's it for me. Are there any other board updates? Joe, go ahead.
So I wasn't.
Is there a question that excuse me, could I ask a question, please?
Yes, go ahead.
The question to either the superintendent or Kelly. Are we still looking into placing a crossing guard or a sign for Granville Avenue in school?
I think Gladys is asking about crossing guard or some other sign for Granville.
We had, yes, this request had come up before. We are looking and working with the city on a sign. So I will follow up with them again on an update for that.
Great, thank you, Kelly. You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, but the reception is terrible, so, if I have to call someone personally, I will, because I didn't hear what the remark was.
Sorry, Gladys. Kelly said that they are working on that and they will follow up at our next meeting.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question about the committee.
And I guess my last question will be, and I will get on, is it possible, and I think it goes in the order that has been in the past, the superintendent secretary will send to the various schools that we as board members are being represented as PTO members, and send us back a list at the time that those schools are having their PTO meetings. So I guess my question is, will we be receiving that notice from the superintendent secretary?
What I'd like to do is reach out to the citywide PTO. I think it'll be more efficient to just reach out directly to the PTOs. It's a lot to try and track down when and where the PTOs are meeting. They're kind of all over the place, and I tried to look at each individual PTO website. They're not all always updated. So what I'd like to do is have just a list of board members and their email addresses and their PTO that they're going to represent, and put the PTO's direct email address so that communication can just be direct. Is that clear?
Okay, but we can have a side conversation about that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good. So, Kate, quick question?
Quick question, I hope. As far as the committees, like community relations, who do you want me to organize a meeting? I mean, how do you want to move forward?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think as you were the prior committee chair, yes, if you could, as the chair, initiate the first meeting and elect the chair again.
Yep.
I did not mention it, right?
About the committees.
Sites and Facilities Committee, we'd like to move forward quickly with that. There's a lot of work to be done. So we're looking to hold a meeting on January 27th at 6:30. And then from there, meet monthly every third Thursday of the month. So for my Facilities Committee, I know our Facilities Chair is leaving us, so I will be on that first committee meeting. I'll open it and ask for a chair to step forward, and we'll elect a chair then, and then turn over the meeting to them. Thanks. And Mr. Britton, I'm sorry, but go ahead. You have the floor.
No worries at all. Yeah, I had something prepared that I wanted to say, and I figured I'd let us handle business first before, I kind of speak. Being that this is the last time, I'm going to be speaking as a board member. The next time I speak is going to be from over there yelling. So, a good thing, hopefully. But first off, really thank you, Chairperson Shaleski and Superintendent Walston, for really this very kind gesture and those kind words, and really everybody on the board and the cabinet for everything, Aaron, everything that you all have done in the 3 years I've been on the board. And, I meant it in my letter when I said that, my 3 years on the board was the biggest honor of my life. I often felt that my time here was sort of a continuation of my education in Danbury Public Schools, because every meeting here, I learned something new. There was a new challenge brought forward that really required a unique, approach to finding its solution. And, after tonight, I can confidently say that I think I completed my time as a student in Danbury Public Schools. And having said that, I'm going to leave you all with a promise. And that promise is, although I'm leaving the board, I'm not leaving any of you or anyone in this district. Everything that I've learned being a part of this group, I'm taking with me to the City Council, because it's just a plain fact that this district, for almost as long as I've been alive, has not gotten its fair share of resources from both the state and the city. And I know in my new role on the City Council, I'm going to be in a position to tell these folks, you have to wake up and face reality, because these problems are not going to go away with a wish and a prayer. And to the district's credit, year after year, this district does more with less. And it continues to blow past expectations, and in my opinion, provide the best education in Connecticut. And that's due entirely to the strength of our teachers, our educators, support staff, the administration. And to me, that begs the question, can you imagine what this district could do if we're given the resources that it requires? And, personally, it also really grinds my gears when I hear people bash Danbury Public Schools, because this is a strong district. This is a great district. We have strong educators, we have strong administrators, strong support staff, and our students really receive a strong education. I loved my time in Danbury Public Schools, and I think a reason why I'm sitting here today is because of the education that I've got in Danbury. And I'm proud to say I was part of this group. We all got along, it was all civil, it was cordial, I loved it. And I'm even more proud to say that I was a part of this group when we navigated a once-in-a-generation pandemic, to the credit of the administration and everything that was done. Beginning the construction of a second high school at the Career Academy, I can't wait to see that become reality. And hiring the first new superintendent in over a decade. I think those are some pretty cool memories that I'm going to have. And I want to give a shout out to the folks at Shelter Rock for being so great to me when I was a student there and when I was their board liaison, which I'm now happily passing the reins off to our new board member Louisa Britton, former PTO president of Shelter Rock. And then, thank you to Chairperson Shaleski, former Chair Cooper, all the members of the cabinet, NEA Danbury, and our new rockstar superintendent, Mr. Walston. I owe you all a lot. And I promise I'm going to have your backs on the City Council. I wish all of our new board members and our seasoned ones returning the best of luck. And, just one final thank you to everybody keep fighting the good fight, and just remember at the end of the day, this job is really about one thing, and that's to take care of the students. And so thank you all so much. It really was an honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. De Silva, is there a second? Seconded by Kate, all those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Hey, this is Joe. So you and Joe, we had a citywide PTO meeting. You have to hear this. We have a citywide PTO meeting on Wednesday. Like that. Monday. And so one of the parents